Yes, folks, that is the More Money Show theme song. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend in the middle of the summer, middle of July. Hard to believe the summer is just flying by like this. Seems like spring just ended. Sweltering heat here, as my mother used to say, it's like a Turkish steam bath out there where I am in Washington, D.C., where you feel like you're swimming outside, not walking through the moist air. It's hot out there. And, one question I have for you all is what you think about this Trump idea of taxing the wind. He wants to put a tariff on Canada for allowing these massive wildfires that are blowing all this smoke and polluting our atmosphere here. Kind of an interesting idea. I know some people feel it's a terrible idea. Others think it is a good idea. But, look, the rules of the game are pretty clear. If you do harm to another nation, you have to pay compensation. But I'm not so sure a tariff is the right way to do it. But my gosh, yesterday you could barely go outside in Washington, D.C. The air was so filled with dust and contaminants and smoke. So hopefully that's going to blow over, so to speak. And by the way, I'm economist Steve Moore. I appreciate so much you all listening to the More Money Show all over the country. We are all the way south to Los Angeles and west to Los Angeles. We go all the way north up to Maine. We go all the way east along the East Coast, all the way down to Georgia and Florida. So thank you for joining and making the show a success. Couple of we got a good show lined up today, as always, and I just wanted to start out with a few things. One is that Tim Desher, who's here, is running the show today here in our studio, and I and a group of about 10 others went to visit the data center, the largest data center in the United States. Wasn't it amazing? I mean, it was just an amazing thing.
It's a new world.
It is a new world, and it's like an industrial marvel. What we saw, bustling with all of these construction workers and technicians, and you go in there and it's like 2 football fields large, this massive warehouse of equipment and stuff. And by the way, this is what makes the internet possible. I'm so sick and tired of people. I don't want a data center. I hate data center now. Not in my backyard. And look, I get it. People are worried about electricity prices and the noise and that kind of thing. But my God, I mean, without these data centers, folks, number one, we're just not going to have internet. We're not going to have iPhones. We're not going to have emergency alert systems. We're not going to have GPS. It's like people saying, I don't want an electric power plant, but I do want, the lights to come on. I mean, come on, if you're going to have a internet revolution, if we're going to have robotics and all these things, we need to be building these plants. And they are major employers. By the way, every one of those construction workers that we saw, and we saw hundreds and hundreds of them, the trucks are coming in and out. It's like amazing to see. It's like the old steel mills.
And the funny thing is, they've been there for 2 years,
and people weren't even aware of it. And they're paying an
jobs.
amazing amount of the property taxes in the county. They are. By the way, the water issue is completely. They do use a lot of water, but it's a pretty circular system. They have their own heating system, cooling system, and then they recirculate the water and so on. It's just incredible. And the thing to think about, which is mind-boggling, is that these. I was thinking back of the old story. Remember the old stories of when the telephone first came in, and the switchboard operators, the women who would like put the thing in the, these are like billions of transactions that happen every minute in all the storage of your files and so on. It's all done because of data centers. And these are amazing people there. They're some of the smartest people you'll know. So we need a lot more of these. We're going to probably need to triple the number of data centers. And this could be a major source of jobs, a major source of income for the country. And I've said it so many times on this show, folks, I'm going to say it again. Even if you're worried about the AI future and the robotics future is coming, AI is here. It's already happening. Businesses are using it every day. They're cutting their costs. They're becoming more efficient, more profitable, producing more goods and services. And so the only issue with AI and data centers is it going to be dominated by China, or will it be dominated by the United States? Simple as that. If we say, no, we're opting out, we're not going to build data centers, we're not going to do AI, do you think the rest of the world's going to stop? No, of course they're not. We're just going to be left behind. So I do think they should pay their fair share of the electricity bills. I think they should pay the whole electricity bills of these communities they come in, and they're multi-trillion-dollar industries behind it. But it's exciting. It's an exciting future. I know people are nervous about it. I know about, maybe if the polls are right, maybe half my audience is worried about AI and worried about data centers, and I get it. But I think it's exciting too, the advances that are coming, and great people there. All of them were, as I said, all of them are union workers making big paychecks, and this is the future. So let's rule that future. One other thing I wanted to bring up very quickly. I was honored to be able to attend the All-Star game, the baseball All-Star game in Philadelphia this last Tuesday. I don't know if any of you tuned into that, but it's the one midsummer celebration for the America's pastime. And I have to say, it was really an amazing experience. There's Philadelphia, which is the sort of the birthplace of our country, and it was really a celebration of our 250th year as a nation. It was incredibly patriotic. They played, obviously the Star Spangled Banner and God Bless America and all of these amazing tributes to the great country. And I was so impressed with the players. By the way, a lot of these players, are not born in America. As you know, baseball, we got baseball players from China, Japan. We got them from obviously South America and Latin America, and so many of them were just so patriotic with their hand over their heart, and that gave me a very good feeling, because I still go back to when the football players were taking the knee during the NFL players, and that was just really outrageous. And so it just restored my faith in these professional athletes, because they were stand-up people. The game itself was not very exciting. It was a blowout, but it was really fun to be there. And then they had the fireworks and all of that was really, really a fun experience for me. So God bless America. Okay, folks, when we get back, we will be talking to the great John Fund. I want to ask him about what's going on with this election issue. Trump made a big deal of it in his speech the other night. I wasn't a big fan of that speech personally, but there's some real issues here that we need to make sure are resolved if we're going to have safe and clean and elections that have integrity, where every vote matters, and people are not eligible to vote are not voting, because when they do, they steal your vote. So we will be right back, folks. This is the More Money Show. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend.
It's More Money with leading economist Steve Moore. Now, here's your host, Steve Moore.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. I'm economist Steve Moore. Thank you so much for joining us, as always, on the weekend. My next guest is John Fund, who is a regular on this show because he's one of the smartest political minds that I know in this country. And he also works with me on Unleash Prosperity. And incidentally, if you're not getting the Unleash Prosperity hotline, please sign up. Just go to unleashprosperity.com, click on hotline and send that in, and we will start getting you the hotline 5 mornings a week for free. Costs you nothing, so there's no reason not to do it. And if you don't like it, you just unsubscribe. But John Fund is one of the major editors of that, is Tim Descher, who's with me today in the studio. So, John Fund, thanks for joining.
Pleasure, thanks.
So John, of course, worked many, many years at the Wall Street Journal editorial board, as I did. We overlapped for a while there. He was with National, and still is with National Review. You see him on Fox News all the time, author of many books on our election process, including a book called Stealing Elections. And so, John, thanks for joining. Let's start with some of the allegations that Trump made in his speech the other night. Was he on target? And explain to our folks what this bill is and how it would improve the election integrity process.
Well, the president's speech, I think, came in 3 parts. The first part was to try to promote support for the Save America Act, and that primarily would push states towards requiring voter ID at the polls, tightening up mail-in ballot security,
Yeah.
and also requiring citizenship proof if you're registering.
Now,
to
are
vote.
you in, John? Are you in favor of that?
Yes, although I think you have to be careful to honor federalism and make it so that the federal government pushes states to do that rather than to require it.
Okay. But that means
think,
that a lot of the blue states wouldn't do it then, right?
Oh, I think if you cut off their money, their federal money for elections and other things, I think you could. Also, you can also sue the states because they do have an obligation under federal law to clean up their voter registration rolls.
And they're not doing it.
The blue states tend to be completely derelict in that, so that about 20% of voter registrations in some states are outdated, involve people who no longer are alive, people who've moved out of state, people who don't exist. And
but
so
hold on, stop right
up.
there, John. So, so if someone's moved out or died and they're still on the voting rolls, what difference does that make?
Well, for one thing, given that in some states like California and New Jersey, every registered voter gets a ballot in the mail. So if
even if they don't exist.
Well, if you're mailing a ballot to someone who doesn't exist, someone who's moved, someone who's dead, somebody's going to get that ballot. And somebody could fill it out. There's nothing stopping them, and you would never know.
Especially if it's a mail-in, right?
Well, in California, 85% of the ballots are now mail-in.
Wow.
In Colorado, it's 90%. And there are real elections that are decided by a few votes in those states, even if on the presidential level they lean in one direction.
So, so that bill seems to me to be pretty reasonable. I think most people, the polls I think show most people would support those moves. The left calls this voter suppression. So, what's the truth?
Well, we have had voter ID laws either sharply definitional or vaguely definitional in 34 states. Voter turnout has gone up. Minority voter turnout has gone up in most states. There's no evidence that it's voter suppression. And 2/3 to 75% of minority voters support requiring voter ID to vote.
Wow. It's just funny when they talk about voter suppression. I think what they mean is illegal voter suppression. That's unfortunately, I think
the president did present some evidence that there are several 100,000 illegal aliens on voter registration rolls. Some of them vote. We don't know the full number because the states refuse to turn over their records to the federal government. The president also talked about China trying to access voter registration documents and apparently has hacked into our system. So you find it interesting that the blue states don't seem to care that the Chinese have hacked into their voter registration records. On the other hand, they won't turn the voter registration records over to the Department of Justice so they can figure out who's on the voter rolls. It's quite a contradiction.
How do you see this playing out?
Well, unfortunately, the president did not make a compelling message to move the needle on this bill in the Senate. There are for three reasons. One, he kept on revisiting the 2020 election. I don't think people want to hear the 2020 election relitigated.
That's for sure.
I think also the president's allies oversold some of the stuff. They said they would have concrete evidence of election shenanigans in Georgia that wasn't brought up. And the third thing is the president has caused the retirement or defeat of 3 Republican senators in recent months. Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, and John Cornyn of Texas. They have no interest in supporting the president on this unless, lots of voters in their state call them up and demand it. The problem is the president, I think, over-personalizes this issue.
He did.
He makes it about himself.
Totally agree.
And he doesn't make it about the policy. And as a result, I think that he didn't grow his audience last Thursday. I think he kept it the same.
So Lindsey Graham died last week. We now have, I guess, is it his ex-wife, his sister? Who's filling the seat?
His sister, who is a disability advocate and a state worker in South Carolina, will fill in the seat on a temporary basis. However, the president over the weekend endorsed her to run for the seat. And I think that would be a mistake because, look, I love citizen legislators, but this is a bit of a reach. And I think the voters of South Carolina deserve a chance to have an open primary without outside interference, and they should pick the best person for the seat.
So that will be in November.
Well, the primary is coming right up. The primary,
okay.
Which will basically decide,
and this is a Republican state, so right.
This is a very Republican state, so it almost certainly will stay Republican. And the primary is next month, so we don't have much time for people to file and run.
Last thing, and we only got 2 minutes left, John. Now they're talking about Reconciliation 4.0. You sent me a note about this morning. That means this is this expedited procedure to get bills through. But Larry Kudlow and I are angry. Republicans are not talking about a pro-growth message right now. They're kind of fumbling the ball. We are very upset that they're not, that the reconciliation bill they're going to pass. It's just all new spending, John. It's no growth measures. What's going on?
The Republican margin in the House is too small. The Republican margin in the Senate is too unstable to get a lot of this stuff through because we only
but they could still be talking about it and pushing it.
I agree that talking is good, but action in this form of a presidential executive order indexing capital gains for inflationary increases would do a lot more and a lot faster. So the president should not waste his time dickering with recalcitrant Republicans in Congress. He should use his executive authority, which he has, to basically say, if you own a house and there's been a lot of inflationary gains on it, you won't have to pay taxes on it if you sell it. If you own stock, you won't have to
I
pay
love that
taxes.
issue, by the way. I mean, you're right, because it's
the economy, and it would make a difference in time for the election.
And it's a matter of tax fairness. I mean, most Americans would agree it's not fair to tax somebody on their house or their stocks when it's all just an inflationary gain. John Fund, you were excellent. Thank you so much for taking some time out on your weekend to join the More Money Show. And folks, we will be right back.
It's More Money with leading economist Steve Moore. Now, here's your host, Steve Moore.
Welcome back, folks. This is the Morning More Money Show, and I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. We talk about all issues related to the economy. We talk about finances. We talk about politics and how you can make more money for yourself. So thanks for joining. By the way, Tim Desher just showed me a little news flash that WABC, our flagship station here in New York, is now one of the top 10 AM stations in the United States. Number one. Sorry, I was going to say, I've been saying we're number one, but that is an amazing achievement. So I want to salute my friend and employer, John Katzimatidis, who, when he took over this station, by the way, was in wreckage, and now it is number one. So congratulations, John Katzimatidis. Let's get back to the economy, folks. By the way, I will be taking your calls as we approach the top of the hour. So the two issues of the day that I want to hear from you on are, number one, data centers. Are you for them or against them? If you're against them, or for them, I want to hear from you, especially if you're against them. I want to hear your argument against them. I don't understand the revolt against data centers. I think they're an amazing part of America's economic future, our infrastructure. We need them if we want an internet that works, if we want emergency services to work, if we want all our files for years and years and years, our data files, all that stuff is dependent on data centers. You have to have them, just like you have to have electric power plants if you want the lights to come on. But I want to hear your views on that, folks. I do. So the other issue that I brought up earlier, I know some people have been texting me about it. Trump has this proposal to put an additional tariff on Canada because of all the smoke that is coming in, and should they pay for that? It's an interesting question. I'm on the fence on this one, so I'd like to hear from you. Is it a bad policy decision, a good one? Look, if you pollute my property and you're my next door neighbor, you're going to have to pay for that. So maybe, I don't know. I'm open-minded on it. Okay, let's get to My next guest, E.J. Antoni, one of the top economists in the country. He's the chief economist over there at the Heritage Foundation. He works with me part-time at Unleash Prosperity. And E.J., okay, let's start with you, E.J. What do you think about this idea of taxing smoke?
Well, Steve, I'm reminded of a good friend of mine who lives in Dallas, and the property next door to him didn't properly manage their landscaping and essentially the slope of the ground, and also how they had the runoff from their building directed, all the water runoff, and there was a parking lot there and everything, and it kept flooding his backyard. And so he had to tell the people, look, if you don't take care of this, I'm going to take you to small claims court because all this water is flooding my backyard every time it rains. Well,
it's like a taking of this property, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this kind of just feels like the exact same principle, but on a national level.
Right. Okay. Well, look, I'm kind of open-minded. I mean, I don't like tariffs. I'm not a tariff guy. You're not a tariff guy. But, maybe they should be paying for the harm because this has done billions of dollars of harm to our economy.
Exactly. And we should point out, this isn't just a natural disaster, right? It'd be one thing if there was an earthquake, let's say, that caused damage, and then there were spillover effects in the United States. But this is actually, it seems like it's a natural disaster because it's a wildfire, but it's actually a man-made disaster, Steve, because Canada for many, many years has chosen not to manage their forests properly, including doing things like controlled burns.
Yeah. Well, just like California did. So maybe Wyoming and these other states should be able to sue California for their incredible land mismanagement as well. So I'm undecided about it. I think you make a powerful case, and we'll see how this all plays out. We'll see if Canada actually pays up, or else they're just going to have to pay a higher tariff on their goods. But you and I are free traders. We understand trade is obviously important to our country. Okay, so EJ, next up is, I'm a little frustrated with the Republicans. I was talking to Larry Kudlow on his show earlier today, and he's a little frustrated too. The Big Beautiful Bill has been an amazing accomplishment. It's provided a big plus to the economy. It's put money in the pockets of American workers to the tune of about $2,500 a year, which ain't nothing. But I'm just not hearing a lot from the Republicans. All they're talking about is spending more money, EJ. I thought they were supposed to be the party of limited government.
Yeah, Steve, I don't understand this latest reconciliation bill, 3.0. I'm looking at it. I had the exact same reaction you did. I think you're spot on. Where are the spending cuts? Where are the tax cuts? How on earth does this make things better? It's actually got, I think, much more in there for the Democrats than for the Republicans. I'm sorry, who controls Congress again? I understand we have slim majorities, but my goodness, when the bill reads as if it wasn't even written by conservatives in the first place, I'm sorry, I don't like it at all. Yeah. I think there are a lot of things they could do to make this better.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, look, Republicans should not be the party of big government because we've already got a party of big government, and that's the Democrats. They'll probably all be in favor of this bill for all I know. I just want to see more talk about, growth. I want to talk here about tax cuts. I want to talk about deregulation. I want to talk about, promoting American energy. None of that stuff is in this bill. Now, look, Trump has done a lot of amazing things for the economy already, but it's disheartening to me. So one other issue I wanted to bring up with you, EJ, is something we wrote about in the hotline the other day, and the Wall Street Journal picked up this story in today's Wall Street Journal. They want to turn the Defense Department into a hedge fund or something like that, or where they're actually buying into these companies that are doing business with the government. The military industrial complex, I guess, is going to be owned partly by the government, and they're like venture capitalists over there at the DOD. I'm not so sure that's the right thing that our Defense Department should be doing.
Steve, you're 100% right. It's not even that, well, I'm not sure this is the right thing. I think this is absolutely the wrong thing, to be crystal clear here. Look, the military-industrial complex is a big enough problem already. The last thing we want is even more influence upon the decision makers in government by these essentially munitions companies. I don't want the venture capitalists with their thumb on the scale in terms of who we go to war with based on what is going to be best for their individual portfolios. In other words, Lockheed Martin's going to get to sell more bombs, so let's go to war with country X, Y, or Z. Absolutely a terrible idea. I understand there has to be some interplay here between government and the private sector.
Sure.
The private sector are the ones building the bombs that the Defense Department needs so we can have a military to keep us safe. I get all that. But the interaction should be limited to just that transaction. The military says we want to buy A, B, and C, munitions, planes, whatever kind of hardware from you. Okay, and then that's it.
Yeah, this creates a massive conflict of interest, too, because if the government owns some of these companies, then it's going to want to direct more of the grants to them and so on. And so you don't have necessarily a fair process for open bidding for these things. I'm with you, EJ. I think it's a terrible idea. By the way, I mentioned to you all that we will be taking your calls soon, and I don't think I gave out the More Money hotline number. So that's because I want to hear from you folks about all the stuff we've been talking about this afternoon. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222, or 1-800-848-WABC if you would like to call in and have your opinion registered here. Final question for your EJ in our last few minutes. The state of the economy, it seems to be good. We're certainly the strongest economy in the world right now, and we're growing at about 2.5%. But you were telling me earlier today that, the higher oil prices are certainly like a tax on the economy. How do you assess things for the second half of the year?
Steve, I think a lot of it's just going to depend on exactly that. What happens with oil markets? What we saw in June, for example, was not just that the consumer was spending more money. That's the case for almost every month. Consumer spending goes up. But it's the fact that the lower energy prices meant consumers' dollars went so much further. It was, if you inflation adjust the retail sales, it was a huge increase. I think that's really, really important. And so what we basically saw in June, I like to call it a peace dividend. I think that the key is getting the Strait of Hormuz open, getting oil markets to normalize. That's going to really, really be key, in my opinion, to having good, solid economic growth for the rest of the year.
So one last question on the way out then. I agree with you entirely on that. We were having a discussion earlier on the show about AI data centers. Tim Descher, who's here with me in the studio, and I and a group of people went over to visit the data center, the biggest data center in the country, which is in Loudoun County, Virginia. It was just an awe-inspiring experience. It's the future of the U.S. economy, and it makes the internet possible, and all of these transactions that we take place, including GPS and all of this stuff, is dependent on it. And people are worried about AI, no question. The polls show that. If anything, more people are worried about AI than excited about it. But my question, I've talked to a lot of CEOs who say that we're already using AI. It's causing amazing increases in our productivity. And if that's the case, that could be really anti-inflationary. In other words, they can produce more with less, which is the very definition of bringing prices down.
Steve, exactly. That's so spot on. Every time you get one of these technological advancements and you see these big surges in productivity, you end up seeing costs go down. It is inherently deflationary. A big reason why people switched over from horse and carriage to automobile, it wasn't just so much reliability or ease of use, although that was certainly true. It wasn't just the fact that you didn't have to clean up the manure of a car like you do with a horse. But it was the fact that it was so much more cost effective. It was so much more efficient. You could spend so much less of your budget on transportation, and that means you have a lot more left over for other things. So you're absolutely right. It is definitely deflationary by its very nature.
That is the great E.J. Antoni, who's the chief economist at the Heritage Foundation, also works with me at Unleash Prosperity. Spot on, as usual, E.J. When we come back, by the way, this is the More Money Show, we will be taking your calls because I always say I'm not the best radio show host, but I have the best audience. I have the smartest audience, and we love hearing from you. So I want to hear from you about what do you think about Trump's idea of taxing Canada for all the smoke they're bringing in, and also, are you in favor of data centers or against them? And if you're against them, I want to hear why. 1-800-848-9222. My producer says we have 2 lines open. 1-800-848-9222 is the More Money hotline, and we will be right back to listen to you.
It's More Money with leading economist Steve Moore. It's More Money with leading economist Steve Moore. Now, here's your host, Steve Moore.
We are back, folks. This is the More Money Show. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. By the way, we are live. We are in color. One of the very few programs across your dial, and I don't want you to change the dial, but almost all the other shows are canned, boring ads, infomercials and so on. We're live. We have great guests, and we have great callers. So I'm very excited that our switchboard is lit up with people who want to get in. So we're going to try to get as many of your calls in as we can. And let us start, Mr. Producer, with Phil calling all the way from California. Phil, you're on the air.
Hey, Steve, great show as usual. Hey, I wanted to know what data center did you tour? And one more thing, if you want people to get comfortable with data centers, they should put a commercial out with the horse and buggy next to a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And say you want to do this or go to this, and then show the old rotary dial telephone and say, do you rather use this or you rather use an iPhone, right? And then people should get the message. Like you said, make it as simple as possible, Steve.
Well, Phil, great. By the way, Phil, are you getting our hotline every morning?
Yeah, I am. It's okay,
great. Good. I'm glad because you sound like you're somebody in the know. And so great comments, Phil. Thank you for calling. I think they're great comments because I agree with everything Phil just said. And he is exactly right that this is the future. It's like saying, oh, we can't move to automobiles from the horse and buggy. I've been saying it would be like, Henry Ford 100 years ago saying, I want to build an auto plant in Michigan, and all the people in Michigan, no, we can't. Oh my God, it's going to cause pollution. They're going to use our water. No, it's going to be too noisy. I'm like, wait a minute. Henry Ford's like, no, I'm going to create thousands and thousands of jobs. That's exactly what is going on here. Look, I know people have legitimate complaints and legitimate concerns. I'm not trying to undermine those. I'm just simply saying that this is the future. If we're going to lead the world technologically, we need these. And by the way, the answer to your question, Phil, which one was it? It's Cloud HQ. People don't understand. You all know the term the cloud. That when you send stuff off over the internet, it goes into the quote cloud. That's what data centers are, right, Tim? They are the cloud that we talk about. And so I was incredibly impressed with just the amazing machinery and the incredible technology that are there. We need more of them, folks. That is my opinion. Okay, let us go to Elaine in New Jersey. Elaine, you're on the More Money Show.
Hello. President Trump talks about lowering utility bills. The reason why the utility bills are high is because utilities are forcing smart meters on everyone for kickbacks. And I have an article here. It's a short article by Public Affairs section. It says invasive and dangerous technologies have been built into a new generation of electric utility meters. The underlying purpose of electronic utility metering is mass surveillance, collecting high-resolution data of your living habits and activities inside your home by recording time of use energy consumption data. But this system comes with some very bad side effects in addition to the surveillance.
Okay, Elaine, I'm going to cut you off because it's a good point, and I want to respond to it, but I want to get some other callers in. I'm going to simply say this about this. One thing I'm very concerned about, we've written about this in the hotline, and it's somewhat related to your point. Now you've got politicians across the country, especially Democrats, who want to basically regulate your thermostat. Are you following this, folks? And they're doing this in Europe already. In the summer, you can't have your thermostat under 78 degrees. And in the winter, it can't be you can't lower your temperature during the summer in your house, and you can't raise it in the winter above 67 degrees. This is the government coming in and regulating and basically setting the thermostat in your house. I mean, my God, I'm a libertarian. I don't want the government in my bedroom telling me what temperature it can be. So that's one of the problems with the utility companies and when they're regulated by government. Okay, Mr. Producer, who is next in line? Who's that? Tom in Connecticut. You are on, sir.
Steve, I enjoy your show greatly. You do a good job.
Thank you.
We have to have the data centers. There's no choice. Horse and buggy died, and we need this. It just has to happen.
Tom, why do you think people are so opposed to them?
People are afraid of change, Steve. It scares people.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I am not sure that those companies that build those centers should be paying the electric charges. I'm not sure it's going to happen. You said just a few minutes ago that the Republicans can't even. They're spending like drunken sailors. It makes me very disheartened.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to cut you off. Very good points. I agree with all of your points. And I do think, yes, they should pay the electric utility. They not only should they pay their fair share for electricity bills, I think that they should pay more. I think they should come into these communities and say, look, these are $1 trillion companies that are doing this stuff, and they should pay more. And as an enticement to let people build in these communities, because it will benefit everyone. By the way, I want to make one final point in our last minute. EJ and Tony was talking about, we've been talking about the horse and buggy. When the automobile was invented, a lot of people don't realize this. It was heralded and hailed as the greatest environmental invention ever. You know why, folks? You know why? Well, it replaced horses, and horses were the biggest polluters. I mean, can you imagine what a city like Washington, D.C. would smell like today on a hot, muggy day with horse manure all over the place? So these inventions always make us better off, not worse. And that is what free market capitalism is all about. And that is why we need to be the innovative country in the world. We have to lead the world as we have been doing for the last 250 years, folks. This is the More Money Show. I'll be back. Same bat time, same bat channel next week. Have a great weekend.